You heard the light of the cars and the beat. You know what time it is, Fan of the Drive on the Astrowave Network. I'm your host, Sibulele Zakufa, and I'm joined by three very special guests. As per usual, my co-host, Christu. Christu, say what's up to the people at home.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Yes, we've got another motorsport fan joining us, the 111 delay.
Hello.
Say what's good to the people at home.
What's good to the people at home?
And then, as you know, standard procedure. Always, Mtana Osakai, the F1 vlogger, Lufefe himself in the building. You know, we had to get you set. Tell her, you know you want to say shout out one time.
What gave it away?
Just the standard procedures of things.
Well, shout out one time.
You know what I'm saying? So this is our season wrap up. The F1 season is over. Thank the Lord and the Pope for some. It's joyous celebrations for most. Tough for some. So, guys, just why do you introduce yourself to our audience? Just let them know who you are.
So my name is Wandile Sishi. I'm representing AutoTrader today. So I'm essentially the brand and PR manager of AutoTrader. And I'm also on the AutoTrader podcast where that's where I can really talk about my love of motorsports and get to, share my opinions. So
do your thing the right way.
Yeah, you know this. I have to represent my team as well,
For sure. Well, we appreciate you coming on. The season's over, so we're going to have to talk about it. First of all, welcome back, Christu. We missed you.
Yeah, I'm recovering.
Yeah, back in the mix. Guys, final thoughts on your race in Abu Dhabi. Real quick, good, negatives, what did you take from it?
So I think the race itself was okay. It wasn't the greatest kind of race, but as a Mercedes fan, personally, I think it kind of showed where the team is. If you think about history, you'll know that, we were 20 seconds, 30 seconds ahead in the past, whereas now we just know it. So I think I was hoping for next year it was going to be a build-up to show, kind of a little bit more competitive from Mercedes side. But I think Red Bull's still going to be the dominant team coming into next year.
Yeah. No, look, I completely agree with you there. Red Bull, they've made an animal of a car for the RB18.
Yeah.
And all they've really got to do now for the next couple of years is they've got to fine-tune it.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's not going to be very difficult with the likes of Adrian Newey at the helm. So, unfortunately, I think we're in for quite a long Red Bull, let's say, dynasty of victories.
Don't say dynasty. Don't call it what it's not.
It's going to become a dynasty.
Don't call it what it's not.
Predicting it.
Not yet. You can't do that. It can't be a dynasty. They've done back-to-back, which is great.
Yeah.
But we have to look at some teams coming back next season. Fluff, what do you think of going into next season, how the season ended?
I think Mercedes are the best team.
He knows what's up.
They're the best brand.
Tell the truth.
Just a simple example. The jack in the Mercedes. It's been the same for over 50 years.
Is that why the guy couldn't drop the car earlier this season? We might need a change. We may need a new jack system if that's... I understand the efficiency concept of it all, but come on. Okay, but yeah, I hear you. Sorry, continue.
So if you look, when Mercedes came back to F1 as a team, because before they were an engine supplier to
McLaren, yeah.
Yes. So they came back in 2010. It took them 4 seasons to start dominating the sport.
Yeah, it took them a while, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't see Mercedes being on the back foot until 2026.
Next year. That's when 8's coming out.
I don't know. I think I kind of agree and disagree at some levels. It's extremely expensive to develop a car. And I think first and foremost, specifically Red Bull and Ferrari have done a fantastic job at these changes. And I think seeing Mercedes in the last 2 races, people are getting kind of happy and excited to see them coming back. But that's not to say that Red Bull and Ferrari have not been developing their car also throughout the entire season. And what we're seeing now is just a taste of what could be happening in the next 2-3 years. So...
I might tell you something.
I think it's too easy to just kind of think Mercedes is back yet, and my heart can't cope with believing that until I see it, because this season was tough. It was tough.
Welcome to being a Ferrari fan. You Mercedes boys know what it's like now.
Exactly that.
Well, okay, well, let's talk about a little bit about, since we're talking about spending money to build a car, we're just let's skate over this ice rink called the cost capping scandal real quick. They received their penalty, quote unquote, and now the vibe in the sports is they've done it, let's get over it, let's move on to next season. But I don't know if that's actually going to be a thing, because the court of public opinion is still out on Abu Dhabi. We still don't have a verdict on that one.
21 or
21 22.
Crystal, I'd like to hear your opinion on this. As a Ferrari man, I think maybe you'd have an unbiased opinion on this.
I was watching it with him. You witnessed my trauma live and in color in 4K.
I have to tell you, Sibu was on the floor.
Yeah,
the
no.
last couple of laps.
No, for sure.
No, look, I do believe that Mercedes and Hamilton were definitely robbed in a sense. I mean, you can't deny that having only a couple of the cars being let through under safety car conditions definitely influenced the race. Because if they'd let everyone through,
we'd have a different outcome
finished
probably
under safety car, and we would have had Hamilton as champion. So, yeah, it's a difficult one. I mean, you see how Red Bull feel about it. They think that they completely won that on purely merit,
just
and
merit.
nothing else. And anyone else who has or says otherwise, has an opinion that differs to them, is just wrong.
Apparently so.
As we saw them do with Sky and Ted Kravitz, how they boycotted them for essentially just stating what happened.
How you get mad at somebody telling you the truth, bro? I'm telling you, this team has an air of invincibility around them, and I blame the sport. They've been coddled and protected every time they do something suspect.
To a certain degree, but this is racing, guys. If you go back to Hamilton's first, his
Hit
first
you with a
win,
messy line.
when Glock was going too slowly, there's always going to be some controversial wins to seasons, usually, unless it's complete domination like we saw this year. But this is just racing. You're going to have instances where your team is kind of given the benefit of the doubt, and sometimes it'll be the other way around. People always say that racing's about luck, it's about the car, and it's about the driver ultimately. And all these ingredients have to come together, and then
that's true. Fluff, you gave me a signal. Sounds like you're gonna say
yes,
something.
I'm burning.
He's got thoughts.
Let him know. Let him know.
So the Timo Glock situation.
Yeah, there was no cheating there. Okay, to be fair, that was just bad strategy.
He didn't
come in for tires.
So it's not apples with apples.
For sure.
And then I was watching the 2012 season.
Yeah.
That ended under a safety car.
Yeah.
Vettel's championship.
Vettel finishing 6th after Michael Schumacher let him through so that he could win the championship.
You see, so you can be courteous in a victory.
For sure. But I think to kind of rest on 2021, expecting some sort of change to happen, is not going to happen.
No, it's not.
This is kind of the reality that we find ourselves in. And as sucky as it is, I believe let's sort it out on the track. Mercedes will be back.
Yeah, let's talk on the track. I like that. I like that mindset. So, okay, we're going to move on a little something before we move off of Red Bull quickly. Redemption song for Danny Rick. He's on his way home, quote unquote home, after they kicked him out the house. What's you guys' vibes? Fluff, I'll start with you. What do you think about Danny Rick going home?
After all the stuff that was said on Drive to Survive by Christian Horner in particular, I think it's actually sad that he's going back there. I think he's being recruited as a contingency plan when they drop Perez. Because obviously now Perez has not finished runner-up in the championship this season.
That's their fault, though.
No,
but
fair.
Yes, I agree.
And surely he's unhappy about that because you can put that down to Brazil.
Facts. Crystal, what about you? I know your thoughts. He did run away, but he's come home.
He ran away and he's finally come home. But it is a bit silly that he left not wanting to be the number 2 driver and he's coming back as a reserve
number 3 driver. Yeah.
Humble pie.
He's only shot himself in the foot in this one. But I do agree with what Lefefe said. I think there is a little bit more to this Danny Rick recruitment because we all know old helmet marker.
Helmut Marko, yeah, there's always something that he's kind of cooking in the back. So.
He's, let's say, savage when it comes to criticizing his own drivers. And
for lack of a better word.
I honestly think if the first 4 or 5 races don't go well for Perez, if he's not right up there supporting Max, doing the job they expect him to do, there's going to be some talks about Danny Rick and not letting this continue for much longer. Let's put it that way. Remember the Albon Gasly switcheroo. So that's all I'm saying.
They're not
afraid. Max. There's been a couple.
It's a very ruthless business out there. It's a very ruthless business.
Yeah, for sure.
Wendy, I want to ask you, how do you feel about the winless season for Merck? For Hamilton, actually.
I don't know why you asked me that.
No, we got to talk about it. We have to get it out the way.
Yeah, I mean, it hurts. But I think it's specifically in the beginning of the season, I felt like his focus was developing the car. I think we knew very early on that the car was terrible. And there was a long road ahead for us to kind of develop it, whereas George, I think, was trying to get the Max out of the car.
Yes.
So learn from Lewis Hamilton's performance and what's happening to the car there, and then apply it to George's car to see if it's working. Later on, I think it got, the closer we closed the gap between Ferrari and Red Bull, I saw George being a lot more aggressive with his driving style, and it was good to see. I think it was good to see that he's not going to just sit down and let the 7-time world champion kind of dictate what happens. So it's sad that it didn't happen, but I think it was a circumstance of the season and not necessarily a circumstance of just his skill.
I think people are way too quick to put all the blame on Hamilton and be like, this is the slow but steady decline of Hamilton. I mean, he was clearly the guinea pig in the beginning of the season, and you could see it.
You could see it, yeah.
And you did call it.
Yeah, and
it wasn't. We had it.
It wasn't a complete winless season for Mercedes. I mean, George did have the win, so circumstances were different. It could have been Hamilton.
It could have been a different story.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Maranello. This is a topic Christo has been excited about for the last 3 days. I think you've sent me 12 messages every hour on the hour from the Scuderia Ferrari Academy Twitter page.
Because finally, it seems like someone at Ferrari has woken up and smelt the coffee and realized Matteo Binotto is just not it. He's not the team principal they need.
Binotto is the tread on Twitter.
Yeah, Binotto out, I'd say, is the trend. But to be fair, their handling of Sebastian Vettel at Ferrari and how they axed him was, to me, that was
terrible.
That was cause enough to not have Binotto around. How can you blame a 4-time world champ for not performing at a team like Ferrari that makes consistent wrong strategy calls, prioritize the wrong driver?
And he actually started to do well when he was at Ferrari.
Yeah, he did do pretty well. The fact that he didn't get a championship with Ferrari, I don't think is down to Vettel. I do think it's down to internal politics at Ferrari.
Well, that and Mercedes' domination at the time. I think the car was also just not
that as well, along with the technical directive in 2020, when they found Ferrari were cheating in some way. No one knows how exactly, because
nobody is allowed to see that report here.
2019.
Gotta keep that on the low.
It's been sealed and put into the archives and forgotten about. But honestly, I hope that these aren't just rumors and that Binotto is tending his resignation before the start of the season. And the likely candidate to replace him is Frederick Vasseur from Alfa Romeo. And I mean, he's Charles's manager. They've been speculating that this has been on the cards for a while.
For a while, yeah. That's true.
Fluff, your thoughts? How do you think Federico would do? Would you want him, or there was speak of him getting the Ferrari GT team principal?
Who's he?
I have no idea. But it was between Federico and him to take over Binotto's job. On the wire, by the way. So what do you think? Do you think Federico would come in and do a good job at the Prancing Horse?
Well, I didn't know much about him until he surfaced as the number 1 candidate.
Yes.
So I looked into him. Apparently, in the junior formulas, he has developed a lot of drivers who are now top drivers in F1.
I was about to say, yeah.
Yeah. But my first choice would be Gunther Steiner.
Gunther!
I'm not so sure after the way they handled Mick.
Oh, did you see how sad it was? Your boy was doing donuts and they told him to
stop that.
We need the gearbox for next season. Come on, guys.
I felt so bad for Mick. I'm like, Mick, this is a personification of your season, boy. They won't even let you burn the rubber on the last race. Shouldn't have crashed it twice this season. That's why. That's what you get. That's what you get. Shame. Poor Mick.
No, well,
But, yeah.
just in conclusion, I honestly do think that Frederick is the man for the job. I mean, he's not Italian, he's French. We've seen what happens when a Frenchman's at the helm of Ferrari.
Jean-Todt.
Yeah. And it seems like Ferrari's gone from this no-blame culture to a point where it's just everyone's standing around throwing their hands up in the air saying, well, it's not my fault.
Yeah.
Somebody's fault.
We can improve. There's no reason why we can't improve, yet they're not improving. So it's kind of getting to the point where someone needs to take responsibility for it, and yeah, pin it on Benotto, I say.
Well, hey, he's done well with the Rookie of the Year, even though he was the only rookie, but that's a technicality. Guan Yu Zhou, the bodyguard from Shanghai, Formula 122 Rookie of the Year. I told everybody, y'all didn't listen, but that's fine. That's fine. So I honestly think Federico will do something, but I like the way that you segued it into a Frenchman at Ferrari. The French Revolution at Alpine.
Yes.
2 French drivers.
2 French drivers. Is that the first time that's ever happened, or
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure if we go back and look at
history.
you'll find 2 French drivers alongside each other, but I don't know if it's ever happened at Renault. Or
yeah, specifically at Renault? Yeah.
No, it has. Alain Prost and Arnold Roux. I think they were
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
82, 83.
Yeah.
How deep do you have to go into the archives to find out?
You have to really think. It's right there.
But okay, so now we know the drivers don't get along, but the question I want to ask the floor is Otmar's leadership. Do you guys buy it or not?
I don't buy it at all.
Same
as
story.
well.
I do not buy it. I'm sorry.
What
I'll
do
let
you
you. I'd let you go. Why do you guys not buy it first and foremost?
Where
Simple
do we
maths.
begin?
Like,
Simple maths.
how many scandals as far as there's the green Red Bull,
Yeah.
there's the pink Mercedes,
Yes.
and then now it was pink Mercedes, the pink Red Bull, and now this whole the Piastri situation,
Mm-hmm.
the way Lonzo left,
Mm.
and now we're gonna see what happens with when Gasly and what's that dude's name again? Ocon, Mr. Do Nothing. When they get together, when they get together, let's see, because I know Gasly's toxic as all hell. In
Think so?
terms of, did you not see how he tore apart that AlphaTauri garage with his behavior?
For sure. But I think he's good. I think Gasly is
He's
actually
good?
a brilliant. Honestly, I think he's a good driver.
Now you dead
Better
wrong
than
on that
Ocon.
one.
I'm sorry.
Better than Ocon.
Look, it's not very difficult to be better than Ocon. Let's just say that.
Ocon's also not bad though. I think Ocon
tell the
also
truth.
gets a bad rap. You know what I
Ocon
mean?
is
But rather there than a Mercedes, because I remember those. A time when he was flagged to come to Mercedes at one point.
Me, it's when he got punked by Max, boy.
Yeah, in Brazil,
Can't let that go.
everything changed after that. Yeah.
Should have rolled him. Took back your self-respect. So I don't see his being the leader that is
Yes.
needed to win a championship in that garage. I personally liked Cyril. I feel his people skills were
Me
great.
too. Me too. Yeah.
The car's quick. They know they can do that, but there's just always problems inside the paddock itself. So I think Otmar needs to kick rocks, him and Rossi. Because if he has one more scandal, I'm getting a stamp that calls it the Otmar technique. Because twice is a coincidence, 3 is...
3 times. Yeah. It's
You know what I mean? So,
it's a pattern at that point.
come
And
on.
also,
needs to
they
be-
drivers, they don't get along.
Simple maths.
Ralph Schumacher said that Gasly actually took Ocon's hand.
That's
Ralph
story-
Schumacher said this.
Yes,
story-
on record.
Rolf is out here throwing shade at
Everyone. Yeah. He's just.
his own nephew. Just everybody can get the smoke from Red. If only he drove the same way he talks shade.
I have to say, I'm starting to think of Ralf Schumacher as another Nico Rosberg.
He's just a
He's on the
pundit.
same
Yeah.
system. He's on the same system. He's on the same system.
just making noise for the sake of making noise.
Simple bets, it works. Okay, move on to Aston Martin. Going into next season, do you think Stroll and Alonso can get along? They're already starting.
I don't think anyone can get along with Alonso. Yeah?
I was about to say,
It's not possible. He is
I didn't say it this time.
the toxic king, in my opinion.
He's that guy.
100%.
He's that guy. But look, 2 world-time champ, proven, very consistent. And then you have Stroll, whose father owns company. So there's going to be something there. We're going to see a brand new sort of story develop
Yeah.
between the two of those.
Definitely going to be friction between.
Yeah.
Are we going to prioritize Fernando or are we going to prioritize Stroll for the sake of prioritizing him because the daddy owns a team?
Mm.
So I do think it's going to be much the same story as what it was at Alpine with Ocon and Alonso not getting along. He's also just not going to get along with Stroll.
Flav, I'll ask you. We've seen Stroll get a couple of podiums. Turkey, He's also really good in the wet, I've heard. I haven't seen.
No, he's brilliant in the wet. Yes.
Going forward, do you think the team will be better served looking at Alonso or prioritizing Stroll and kind of letting Alonso be the quasi-Seb?
Well, the way I see that driver combination is that they've recruited Alonso to help Stroll develop his driving skills, you know, so that he becomes a better driver for the future. Otherwise, he's definitely the number one driver for Aston Martin if or when they become a front-running team.
Okay, smart points. See, we got smart people on here, people who know this thing here.
Yeah, but I mean, you can say that about Vettel, right? I mean, that was the whole kind of gimmick that they ran at. You know, how long are you gonna invest in Stroll before, you know, you look elsewhere?
His last name's not gonna change.
That's a good point.
As long as Daddy's got money, he's okay, bro.
I was about to say, you're basically asking how long do you think the Strolls will
Simple bets, man. We're on the laps of things. We're talking about, I want to introduce the up-and-coming drivers, okay? Me and Christo had a conversation off camera about how Vegas might actually be the next championship race after Abu Dhabi's contract is over. And you're looking at Logan Sargent coming into Williams, who actually got his super license points.
Yes, just yeah.
I know you didn't have faith in him.
I didn't have faith in him.
I didn't even know who he was. So
you got it close.
Yeah, we got Sargent. Okay, I already know how you feel about Piastri. He's apparently the second coming, and we've got Logan Sargent coming in. But then we've also got Father Time coming back, Nico Hulkenberg. So 2 questions. How do you guys think the rookies will do next year, Piastri and Sargent? And also, De Vries too.
I was about to say, don't forget De Vries.
Yeah,
He's your guy.
Nicky DVV. Nicky DVV. Dividends are free when it comes to Nicky. But Logan Sargent, Piastri, and then we've also got Hulkenberg coming back. Hulkenberg still, if I'm not mistaken, has the record for longest F1 starts without a win, right? So my question is, why would you bring him back?
So ultimately, Gunther has gone for experience over talent. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
They got a bit tired of Mick crashing the car a lot and getting to terms with the new regulation car. And I think they were a bit impatient on that one because Nico, in his first day of testing, has already said that he felt some form of human degradation. So the chances of him stepping into that car as an old man, that
he's going to see the best.
That's only really done one race. I mean, he did do a race at some point this year, didn't he?
Yes, he filled in at Aston Martin, I think.
Yeah.
That's his real only experience this year in these cars. I don't think he's going to fare much better than Mick, and I think this one might just come back to bite Haas in the ass.
Wandy, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I have a similar sentiment, but I do trust in his consistency because, like you're saying, he's jumped around at many different teams. It doesn't matter what machinery you give him. He's pretty much given us consistent sort of result. So I think the more he gets to play around within that environment, the better it'll be. Will he be fantastic? Will it be a game changer for them? Probably not. But we'll see.
Fluff, what about you? Where are you on the Nico Hulkenberg story?
Hulkenberg, you know, when he was up and coming, he was punted to become the next great German, you know?
Yes, you're right, Tim. I forgot about that. Yeah, I remember that.
So he was said to have bags of talent, but I think he is the biggest anticlimax in the history of sport, let alone F1. So now, if you're going to take a young driver and then pull him out of the car to bring him back for, I'm sure this is his third return into F1. It's not the first time he's lost his seat and then
had to come back,
you know. So I don't understand the logic behind that.
Yeah.
It's sad that, Mick, the commercial value that comes with his name, of course, he hasn't done great at Haas, and having K-Mag as his teammate has sort of exposed his weaknesses because when he had Mazepin, he was outclassing him, you know? So I'm not happy about that. I really would have given Mick maybe one more season. You know, I'm all for promoting youth because we want to see a new crop of drivers coming in.
Every once in a regular.
The big thing though is money. Haas does not have money.
Yeah.
They can't afford to invest in a potential. Whereas with Nico and K-Mag, they can almost guarantee some points coming in and, you know, some money coming in the season. Mick, he's crashing. How much more can you afford that before it starts to impact the rest of the team? And I think Gunther's kind of balance those things and make a It wasn't really about a talent thing, but more of a sustainability situation. I think that was kind of driving that decision.
For me, I think they made a horrible decision.
Yeah.
Horrible decision because he's old and it's proven. The track record is there. He hasn't gotten it done. So now you're essentially capping off your season already. You're saying this is the best we can do, and that's fine because the car is not electrically quick necessarily. The Ferrari engine is amazing, but Hülkenberg, he just can't get it done. So like, why would you want to expose your team to that consistently? So I think that was just a terrible decision, really. All right, let's do a few more things, and then we'll finish up here very nice and strong. We're looking at teammate comparisons. I'm just going to read off the teammates, and you guys will tell me who you think had a better season and why. So we'll start with Ferrari boys, Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, the professor and the smooth operator. All right, I'll go down the line. Fluff, what did you think? Who do you think had the better season between the two?
I think for the Ferrari drivers, it was a season of two halves. So in the first half of the season, Charles was killing it.
Yes.
But since the British Grand Prix, Carlos has really come back strong. He didn't have a race win before this season. So if you're going to look at it relatively, I would say it's almost evenly matched.
Fair enough. Crystal, what about you?
Oh, you know how I feel about this.
Standard procedure.
Charles Leclerc all the way. And I mean, okay, yes, you can argue that Sainz had a lot more DNFs and a couple more crashes that weren't entirely up to him.
The fire in Austria. When nobody wanted to help him.
I remember that.
But all things considered, I have to say that I think qualifying alone speaks volumes. And the way that Leclerc just managed to fish out these pole positions one after the other. I mean, they finished the season with more pole positions than Red Bull. You didn't see Carlos Sainz really doing that all that much.
Head up.
So, yeah, talent-wise, I'd
Points
say...
are collected on Sunday.
I was about to say.
Conversion rate is important. Conversion rate is important.
But still, going by that measure, he's also outscored Sainz by
fair.
how much?
True. Wandy, where are you at?
So I can't say who was better. I think they both were absolutely horrendous. Ferrari's season was disgusting. I've never seen a team drop the ball that badly.
Yeah.
But I can tell you now that Charles, for me, was the worst driver because it was in his hands. Of course, the team had a huge part to do that with that. But I think it's important to also give him some accountability for the opportunity that he was given and not being able to do what he needs to. You've seen Max, whenever he feels the team is not doing enough, he puts that pressure to make sure that everyone's in line. Hamilton does the same. Vettel does the same. It was Charles' turn to step up and be like, I deserve better. We could win the season and you guys completely lost it. So for me, I think Charles was worse performance-wise in terms of an overall package. I think Sainz was my better driver.
Oh, I feel you that. Okay, we'll do Mercedes Red Bull and we'll clean this off right here. So, on the Red Bull camp, what do you guys think obviously the champion had the better season?
Of course.
Do you we've spoken about Daniel Rick potentially replacing Perez. So do you guys feel Checo did his bit this season? Do you think he did enough to secure his position next year?
No, he didn't get second place. The team could have done better there, in my opinion.
It honestly was theirs to lose, and they did lose it. And to Ferrari, no less. Like when Delis pointed out, when last have you seen a team drop the ball that badly?
Fair enough, you're not
and
wrong.
They still managed to walk away with P2 in the drivers. So, yeah,
they had the car.
They definitely had the car.
Does show you that I do think Perez, he had a great season. He won most of the difficult races, most of the street circuit races, Monaco, Singapore, those ones. But yeah, I don't think he's quite on Max's level, and it's only a matter of time until Red Bull figure that one out for themselves.
Hey, tough times. You shouldn't have been the Minister of Defense. They'll tolerate you until they can replace you, Perez.
100%.
You know, Latino Heat is my dude, man. I love that man. Rob, what about you? Perez, do you think he's done enough to secure his seat next year?
Look, the drama between them, for me, I think is the more determining factor of the season. Perez, earlier in the season, was performing really well until I would say Monaco, Spain, around there. But that situation where you're told you're not allowed to race against your teammate, psychologically, that must have affected him because
in some shape or form,
he declined thereafter. He's not as good as Max, that's for sure. But where he is in his career, I mean, I think he's 33. He's experienced. He's been to a couple of teams. I really thought that he'd be given at least an opportunity to fight for the title, which would then optimize the team's output ultimately season by season. So for next year, yes, he will be there, but because of the decline in the relationship, they're going to drop him.
I agree. Well, I don't agree they'll drop him, but I agree he had a chance to win the championship. They paid him. But,
he doesn't need the money. He's loaded.
That's true. And my thoughts on Carlos Sainz, I saw his dad drive the Ferrari, I think it was the F88, on track with him. His dad drives harder than him. So that's tough. So the junior part makes sense now.
I mean, Sainz's dad isn't he like a Dakar rally legend?
Yeah, and he was whipping it the whole time. All you hearing, like Sainz on the video, he's crying, break. I'm like, say. That time his dad's just like, watch what I'm doing, relax. So he's not smooth. I'll say operator, maybe not smooth so much.
How about that time Ferrari told him to box, and he was doing an overtake?
You know what I'm saying? Not now.
Typical Ferrari moves.
All right, the 3-point star to come to a close.
Silver arrows.
Hamilton and Russell will go. Wandy, bring it home this way.
I was disappointed by Lewis's performance this season. Just outright numbers wise, I think I was a little bit disappointed. But I'm happy with George's performance. I think he really came into that seat and he kind of owned it. So I'm really proud of what he's doing there. Outside of just being a Lewis Hamilton fan, I think I'm a bigger Mercedes fan, and I think both drivers did an exceptional job with what we were given. And George, the numbers don't lie. So
Suspect though.
I'm one of the biggest George haters, but give credit where credit's due.
Fair enough. Chris, what about you, brother?
Look, I'm tempted to say that I think George was the better driver this season, but again, difficult to tell, seeing as Hamilton was the guinea pig.
I was about to say, we still have to work together.
Hamilton being the guinea pig for about the first third of the season, I think really did help George a lot in terms of how they set up the cars and learning from Hamilton, who's got a bit more experience. My only thing is Hamilton cried a lot this season. He complained so much, which was really out of character
We've
for
seen
him.
the best, I won't lie to you.
And maybe purely just on that, I'd have to say that I think George had the better season. Because he made do with what he had, and he actually brought home some pretty solid performances for Mercedes. And if I was Toto Wolff, I'd be pretty damn excited for next season, because you can bet your bottom dollar Mercedes are probably going to come back way stronger than Ferrari. And they might be the only team to give it to Red Bull next year. So
that's tough, especially coming from a Ferrari fan. Fluff.
Feel the pain.
Tell the streets.
Firstly, I think that Mercedes have already leapfrogged Ferrari. Like this season. The last 3 races, definitely Mercedes were the best of the rest.
Can I just say how actually embarrassing it must have been for Ferrari that Mercedes even came close
Yeah.
to stealing away P2 from them?
Yeah.
That's why Bonotto's job's on the line. That's why Bonotto's job on the line. Please continue.
And then unlike Wandy, I'm a Lewis Hamilton fan.
44.
If he goes to Ferrari, I become a Ferrari fan. If he goes to Red Bull, same story.
I don't know about Red Bull.
Yeah, God forbid.
The internet would blow up.
So to look at the driver performances, for me, what happened in Abu Dhabi in 2021, Lewis had not psychologically recovered from the disappointment. So I think the season came sooner than he was ready. If you remember, he did a sabbatical on social media. He unfollowed everyone. And if you think about it, who of his friends were vocal about what happened in Abu Dhabi? I'm talking your Usain Bolts.
Nobody said anything.
Your Neymars, your Serena Williamses. You understand?
Zero.
Who's the baller? LeBron James. No one said a thing. And I think there's a lot of things that we don't know that were happening behind the scenes in and around that.
From what, a mental health point of view, or from the FIA side of things?
From learning who your people are.
Oh, okay.
Right? So Lewis then came back and posted, "I've been gone, now I'm back."
Yeah.
Like a week before preseason testing. So I think that he was still trying to accept what happened in the first third of the season. Granted, they were using him as a guinea pig. But I think the psychological barrier that he had to overcome to accept that he's not an 8-time world champion and nothing's going to be done about it has affected his performance this season. Okay? Then the team has let him down in 3 possible winning positions. In France, was it? In Spielberg. So if you look at the wheel-to-wheel racing,
Silverstone also, there was the race where he had to slow down because the car was overheating.
There you go. So if you look at his performance, the overtakes he's done, the aggression and all of that, he's definitely done better than George. And if you look at the head-to-head, he's beaten George in races more than George has beaten him. In quali, the same story. It's just that George, for me, he was very safe this season. He was at the right place at the right time, driving in a smart way. Credit to him for that. But I only really saw him come alive from Circuit of the Americas as a wheel-to-wheel racer. And me, that's what I'm about. So definitely, I will say, for collecting the points, George comes close, but not quite on Lewis, because Lewis was a machine after the summer break, especially.
To summarize what he just said, 4 letters, GOAT.
The GOAT.
So to wrap up here, guys, next season, who do you think is going to win driver and constructors championships? Just team and driver?
I'll go first. I think I'm hoping to see another Max Lewis fight again. That was as tough as 2021 was. Boy, was I probably the most excited I've ever been in F1. It was so invigorating seeing the GOAT going up, arguably the second greatest driver of all time, in my opinion. Max is phenomenal.
All time.
Of all time.
Stop the presses.
Of all time.
Stop the
I've
presses.
said it. I'll say it on the record. I think Max is, so I want to see that again. So I think driver-wise,
for 5 marks,
Like, I
support your
love
answer.
what he
makes
says
him-
that.
we will
like
take it
running out of
offline.
time.
Maybe, yeah, we'll take it offline. But I think he's a phenomenal driver, and I want to see that battle happen again. So from a driver side, I wouldn't be too angry with either of them if they give us the same thing as 2021. From a constructor side, I think Red Bull's still going to take it.
So Red Bull do the back-to-back constructors, drivers championship.
I want to see those two fight it out and
Okay,
see
cool.
they'll sort out on the track.
Mr. What about you?
Gotta agree with that. Like I said, I think it's the beginning of a Red Bull dynasty here. With that car, all they have to do is fine-tune it, keep Adrian Newey happy.
Pay him that 10 million a year.
Exactly. And I wouldn't be surprised if next year might be the year where they get constructors, drivers, and 1-2
Damn.
in the drivers. That's how dominant I think they are.
Mm.
Yet again, it's going to be Ferrari and Mercedes fighting with them every once in a while, but I don't think they're going to be there every weekend to give to give Red Bull a proper headache.
All right, so you say repeat, and then for you, Fluff, your last points. What do you think?
For me, if you look where Mercedes were in Bahrain, it was 1.2 seconds behind the leading teams. I would say Ferrari had the fastest car at the time.
Yes.
No team has closed the gap to the leading teams in the same pace as Mercedes has done this season. First of all, Mercedes, they had the porpoising problem. So they could not put their cars in full capacity in order to drive. So they always had, because they said in the wind tunnel, they had an extra second on the pace they were showing on track. So based on this, and just Mercedes as a brand is amazing, I think that, Red Bull are definitely the favorites. So is Max Verstappen. But I can see Mercedes at the very least giving them a run for their money. And when F1 is a sport of milliseconds, millimeters. So the difference will be that 1 or 3% that Lewis has. So I can see Red Bull winning constructors, but Mercedes winning the drive as well, Lewis, to be specific. And then just one last point. Okay, I lost my trail of thought. You can carry on.
Fair enough. Okay, so you have Lewis sneaking the championship, and Red Bull potentially repeating.
Oh wait, I've got it. I just wanted to go to that greatest of all time.
Lewis is the greatest of all time. Let me just be clear about that.
One of the greatest with the Max thing.
Yes.
That's one we'll have to have. We'll have to have that conversation another time. We're pressed for time now.
1 minute.
1 minute. I'll give you 1 minute.
Producer. my thing is Max's driving style.
Yeah.
When he is racing against Lewis in particular,
Yeah.
for me, does not display greatness. He's driving dirty. He's closing the road. He is understeering the car on purpose.
Dive bombing.
So if we've seen your Mika Häkkinens, your Kimi Räikkönens in their prime, are you really going to say, even your guy, Fernando Alonso, are you really, really going to put Max above those drivers?
I am. And I'll tell you why.
Sticking with it.
Honestly, truly, I'm sticking with. I think from a skill point of view, Max is able to get the maximum out of any machinery he's ever been given. So much further ahead of anybody else who's a competitor to him, including his teammate.
He's never had a top teammate except Daniel Ricciardo.
Sergio Perez is not a bad teammate, guys. I think we're being a bit.
Sergio Perez couldn't beat Ocon, and no one rates him in this panel.
I think people give Max too little credits.
Nobody disputes his talent.
Much credit.
We don't dispute his talent. We just don't. I don't like the fact that he's crowned so early.
Yeah,
I think he's gonna get 2 more, and the conversation's gonna change. He's grown at such a faster rate than most drivers have, would ever be able to.
This was
at
his
his
7th season in F1.
Yeah, all that does is tie him with
that's
Seb in terms of championships.
Yeah.
Guys, let's give him some time to breathe. Let's marinate the meat before you grill it.
That's the thing. Like, I don't deny Max is a brilliant driver. He possibly is one of the greatest of all time. But
Excuse me.
like I say, let's have a couple more championships under that belt before we
That's
crown
out
him.
of the table.
For sure.
Once, because the first one was given to him. No, gents. Anyway, we could talk about this forever.
Forever
Yes,
and
we can.
evermore.
Yeah.
Forever and evermore. Our season wrap up will end right here. But also, I call Max K53 because, yes, he can drive, but every single driver needs to learn to drive around him. So he is great. He can whip it. And if he three-peats, I'll give him his kudos. But 2 championships under suspect conditions, congratulations, but
Yeah.
wait a second.
Yeah.
So this, guys, was the Fan of the Drive season wrap-up panel. The 111 delay outside far right. Chris Dubrew to my co-host. The F1 vlogger. Wow, English every time I'm on camera. The F1 vlogger out here. I've been your co-host, Siwulele Zogufa. This was Fan of the Drive. And, Formula E coming down to Cape Town next year. If you have the time, money, and effort, make your way down there. Support local
sure.
motorsports for sure. And shout out again to the Delinda brothers, one world champion in DTM. We love you, baby. Sheldon, right? Sheldon did it?
Sheldon. First
Yeah,
South
Sheldon,
African to
yeah.
do it.
Well done, Sheldon. Well done. The Binder brothers also doing their thing in MotoGP. I think Brad got his top 10 finish this season.
Yeah,
He did his
and
thing.
And a pole position.
Well done to him.
Most positions gained throughout the season. KTM's only improving, so it's looking increasingly.
Motorsport's growing in South Africa.
Yeah.
It's
We
just
out
great
here.
to see,
I
for
think,
sure.
yeah, Delinda and Binder need to talk to their brothers, though, because they're not pulling their weight. But we support you. We love you. Thank you, guys.
It's
Thank you.
been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, last thing.
Thank you for
I would
having
not be doing my job if I didn't say that if you want to buy or sell a car, always come to Auto Trader.
100%.
Shout out one time.
100%.
All right. We'll see
Thanks
you
for
when
having
the
me,
sun
boys.
comes back around. Goodbye.
Bye.
Cheers.